Now, Kagiso Klaber is the IM product manager at Sasol South Africa. He's been involved in software development, requirements analysis, systems analysis, training needs analysis, SAP configuration, and system training material development. Kagiso has been involved in multiple stages of the product lifecycle. Now, working as a SAP HR, SHE, and risk service owner, Kagiso is focusing on the HR information system space and is developing his leadership skills. Kagiso is sharing Sasol's success factors implementation journey, the ups, the downs, where Sasol currently is in the journey, and what Sasol is trying to achieve with this transformation journey. And this is no small feat, as they started it just as COVID struck. So handing over to you, Kagiso, how are you today?
Good afternoon, Innocent. I'm very well, thanks. And how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, and really enjoying all the learnings from today.
It's been amazing. I wish I knew about the previous tool that we've just heard of before we started our implementation. I think I must actually reach out to Robin and talk to him.
I'm sure he'd love that. So what do you have for us?
So I'm just going to talk a little bit about our implementation journey as Sasol. We've embarked on a transformational journey. This is basically us implementing the full suite of success factors. And as we all know, COVID hit us very unexpectedly, and that was slap bam in the middle of our journey. So I just want to talk, it's a little bit of a customer story, so not really so technical, but just a little bit about the motions we went through and how we best trying to navigate with the current situation. Innocent, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Innocent, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm right here.
All right, good. All right, so is it okay if I just go on?
You can go on.
All right, good. Thank you so much for having me. Good afternoon, everybody. So as mentioned, my name is Kagiso Klaber. I currently work as the IM product manager for Sasol South Africa. I'm also a solution architect chapter co-lead, and I have the great privilege of serving on AFSUG steering committee, the HR steering committee, as the chairperson. So that's just a little bit about who I am. So as mentioned, I want to talk to you a little bit about the impact of COVID-19 on our cloud journey. But before I go into all that, maybe just let me give you a little bit of an overview of what Sasol is and who Sasol is. So we employ just over 30,000 people across 32 countries worldwide. We are one of the world's largest producers of synthetic fuel. We've got about over 50 years experience in the production and marketing of a range of chemicals, talking from aerosols to your common Vaselines and whatever else you can think of. Sasol probably has something to do with it. We own very strong intellectual property. We have about over 2,000 patents worldwide that we hold as Sasol. So we've got some smart people working for us. So right, so I remember it was 2018, if I'm not mistaken. I was speaking at a Mastering SAP conference, and I was talking about exactly this picture that you see on the screen now. I was talking about what we're trying to achieve on our implementation journey. We termed our project 1HR, and it was meant to be this huge transformational journey that brings together all the success factors modules, and we're trying to be of more service to our people as Sasol through our HR solutions. So we've always had what we refer to as talent at work. Basically, this is all the talent modules that we have. If you look at the yellow blocks, this is typically what we've always had at Sasol since around 2015, if I'm not mistaken. So we've always had recruiting as a module. We've always had the learning module, performance management and goals, and succession. And the big plan was to include everything else that's on the gray blocks to have one seamless system that allows us to move from module to module and complement the employee lifecycle, really. So we really wanted to go on with everything. We were going to do the workforce planning and reporting, onboarding, rewards, time management, cloud payroll, which was quite a big risk at the time. I think there was only one client in South Africa at the time which had gone live with cloud payroll. So we were looking to be a bit of trendsetters. And we're excited about it. On a personal level, this was big for me personally. I was excited when I was called into a meeting and I was told, listen, you've been telling us about this success factors thing of yours. You've been telling us how you want to expand it, and business agrees with you. We agree with you. We've got money now, so let's go and do this. And I was asked to be the lead from an IT point of view, to say, well, since you know the system as well as you do, and you are already leading our implementations, please come and be the lead for us, and let's work together in getting this over the line. So you can imagine, for me, I'm relatively young, and this was a great career opportunity for me. I mean, I was on cloud 9. I thought, am I gonna ever get an opportunity again to be part of such a big and full implementation? So it was exciting all around. There was nothing that could go wrong as far as I was concerned. I went and arranged for someone to actually do my day job, because I realized how demanding it's going to be for me to be able to properly execute on this project. So that was pretty much the plan that I shared in 2018, and it was exciting all around. I remember a lot of people calling me after the session and saying, listen, we wish you well. Can we have catch-ups? Build a lot of friends that way, because it's one thing that's very important on this journey that I've learned is collaboration. And I speak a little bit about that. Collaboration is so important. So I had people calling me, and we'd share ideas on how to go about this, made a lot of contacts, which I'm eternally grateful for. So what exactly did we do? First and foremost, we went and we created the whole project structure. We are a multinational organization. So at the very minimum, we have to consider South Africa, we have to consider North America, and we have to consider Eurasia and then within those are other smaller countries. So for example, South Africa is also responsible for a country like Mozambique. Eurasia is responsible for other countries like China and Russia and so forth. So those are the three sort of regions that we have to at the very minimum consider. So we went about making sure that we've got representation from everybody as part of the structure. We involved all the right people that we thought would add value to the project. Because of the risks associated with EC payroll, I mentioned just now that it was completely new in the market, and only about 1 or 2 customers in South Africa in particular had implemented this. We thought as early as possible, let's go and do a proof of concept. So we did that. We came up with a few requirements that were the absolute bare minimums for us to say we have a successful running payroll. And we went and did a proof of concept. I'm happy to report that it actually worked. So we realized everything that we wanted to realize as part of what bare minimum would be to us in terms of running a payroll. So that was quite a positive. That was quite a high in the project because we had been so scared. We had never done it before. We had to have a lot of late night calls with a lot of people who had done it to help us out. So that was quite important for me. We also went and we completed a global design. We actually currently have a lot of disparate systems across our region. So I mentioned 3 regions in particular. Each one of them runs their own payroll box, for example. So, we're very disparate in terms of our systems. As much as we try and collaborate, we have our own little nuances per regions. And it's very easy to fall into the trap of, I'm only going to worry about South Africa because South Africa is my region, or I'm only going to worry about North America because that's my region. But we have really had to take a lot of caution, a lot of care in trying to make sure that we build for the future. And in the future, we really, really aspire to be a global company and not so separated by geographical lines. Another important thing that we went and we did was around time management. So, there's a lot of options that we looked at. Around the time we were looking at things like Chronos, we're looking at workforce, we're looking at EC time, which is the standard time that SuccessFactors offers. So we looked at a couple of options. There were a lot of complications here as well. So our Eurasia colleagues had just started a project where they were implementing Chronos. They actually went live about 2 months ago with a full-on Chronos implementation. So you can imagine the frustration that comes with the previous point, where we're trying to do a global design. However, one of our regions went and did a full time management solution implementation. So in North America is already working on workforce, but they're a smaller group. And here we were on the on-premise time management, and we were trying to figure out what solution we're going to go for. So, there are always those nuances that you have to look at. And I think every organization comes across those. But this was certainly quite a big point for us. But eventually we landed on what we would do. We decided on going with workforce for North America and for South Africa, and leave Eurasia on Atos, because they had already completed their implementation. Another big thing that we realized we had to get right very early was, the whole replication of data. So first of all, moving or migrating it from our on-premise solutions onto the cloud, but also replicating back to on-premise for purposes of records or whatever else we might need to do to use the data for. So there was a lot of conversation around those, and we had to quickly wrap our heads around how we're going to manage our data. And then another big thing was integration. So we've had our on-premise solution for well over 25 years. And with that amount of time comes a lot of, configuration. And, this one wants their own flavor to the system, and this region wants their own flavor to the system. So there's a lot of customization in our systems. And with that comes the complication of integrating to half the world. So we really had to be cautious around how we handle integration and what we integrate to, as much as we're striving for this global template. So that's a little bit about where we got up to. This all happened within, I think a little over a year, or just about a year. So it took quite a lot of time, to try and standardize our policies, truly be global in the way we're trying to design this project. But I mean, in this whole year, it was absolutely amazing. We had endless calls with people all over the world, and the work itself was fulfilling. So it was living up to being everything that I had anticipated it to be, and truly what the organization had anticipated it to be. So some of the lessons that we learned in that short space of time was, and some of you might be familiar with our story, but was implementation partner first and foremost. I think I can't stress this enough. I think if you are going to embark on a similar sort of journey, or any sort of implementation for that matter, choosing the right implementation partner is absolutely critical. You need to find a partner that is aligned to what you're trying to achieve. They are on board with what you're trying to achieve, and they have the attitude, but most importantly, the aptitude to be able to achieve what your vision is and put it into life. I can't stress this enough. It's very, very important to find the right partner. Do your due diligence, go the extra mile. Even if you feel like you're being extra, it's better to be extra than not do your due diligence and then only to find yourself in trouble a bit later. So that's probably one of the biggest lessons that we've learned as Sasol. And then the second lesson that quickly crept up on us was inclusion and collaboration. Having mentioned how I saw this as a big opportunity and how excited about the project was, it's very easy to let all that get into your head, and you don't do it purposely. But I think as a person, you are so excited to win and to prove yourself so much that you may end up subconsciously leaving people behind. So you don't collaborate or include as much as you should. You want to win. You want to, and I think I'm personalizing this, but I think it's really something that happens with all of us, and I had to do some serious reflection. Luckily, I caught it early and I could change it early. And we as a project caught it early and we could change it early. But, we realized the value of being inclusive, involving everybody, involving all the stakeholders, not making decisions without consulting the right people on that decision making. Very important though. We need to have people that actually do make the decisions. As much as we want to be inclusive and collaborative, we also don't want to be stuck in that loop of, no, but this one wants this and this one wants that. So we had to find a perfect balance on how to be inclusive and be more collaborative. That's probably very, very important. This way, you also get buy-in from a lot of people. So if one person has a good experience with the project team, they go and they tell the next person, and word of mouth, and so it spreads. Before you know it, people are so excited about this program that you're running that they want to be involved and they want to know how to help out, and they're actually spreading it for you. So it also helps a lot with the change management and the buy-in of the solution. I mean, you can imagine with 30,000 employees, if you have even a third of those people not buying in, you're already in trouble. So inclusion and collaboration was a very big lesson for us. And then the third thing that we also learned is, you should really strive to go out there, be visible, make noise, speak to people. And I find that such events as this, for example, Afsur is my baby, so I always refer to Afsur. But I mean, Afsur is a great place where you can come and you can ask people who've been on similar journeys and ask them, listen, how are you going about doing this? How did you find this experience? How tips can you give me? And I find that especially with success factors that we all learning. So people are very quick to assist. They want to assist you. They want to learn from you. So open yourself up. Go and do client reference calls. Make sure you speak to people who have done this before on a similar journey. Keep tabs with each other. Set up a monthly meeting with another company and say, listen, this is how far we are and this is what we've learned. How about you guys? You find that there's small things that you may overlook that another client has thought of, And then lastly, SAP. I think at the end of the day, this solution belongs to SAP. So we need to hold SAP accountable for what they're delivering to us. So engage with them. They have amazing programs on engagement. They have, what do you call this? Max attentions and preferred cares, where you can actually call in an expert and say, listen, I don't fully understand this. How do I go about doing this? Set up all the necessary calls and interventions that you need. So this is also another lesson that we learned, that hold SAP accountable, have them walk the journey with you, but be collaborative with them as well. At the end of the day, this is their product and they know it best. So they are also well suited to help you achieve what you want to achieve. So at this point, hormones, or not necessarily hormones, but emotions are high and we're doing well. And this thing is going, it's costing a lot of money, but it's all worth it. It's going to be worth it in the end. And then COVID-19 happens. So towards the late 2018, there were starting rumors, that we're possibly going to have to pause the project because, of this whole COVID impact that it's having on the whole world. There's travel restrictions. So if you imagine, travel restrictions is probably the worst thing that could happen to Sasol as one of the largest providers of jet fuel. So if people are not flying, it means we're not making our monies. So we have to now sit back and cut costs here and there. There was also the highly publicized building of one of our plants in Lake Charles, which overran by quite a bit in terms of time and money. And, that also had a huge impact on our share. I mean, at some point, Sasol shares were trading at 25 rands per share. So we really, really had a hard time, sustaining ourselves as a company, but also looking at these types of projects, which cost well into the hundreds of millions. And we had to rethink. And, the word from the big people came and said, look, as much as we're excited about this, we really need to relook everything. And unfortunately, this is just too much money and we're just going to have to stop the project. All that excitement, all those aspirations that I spoke about in the beginning, that career progress, all that literally just took a standstill. And then, obviously we had other repercussions. I mean, we literally had to stop every project. There was quite a big loss to other people because we then literally rolled off everybody who was a consultant at Sasol, so the impact was quite big. We've recently just finished a restructuring process at Sasol. So the impact was very, very big. So as much as you feel and you understand that it's almost necessary to pause the project or to stop the project, it wasn't pleasant at the time. It was really, really upsetting at the time, and everything seemed very, very bleak at the time, and we didn't even know if we would even be allowed to go back and do this at some point. So now what happens to all the work that we did? I mean, we had spent about a year or so doing all this amazing work. What happens to it? We didn't just want to give up on it. So now we started thinking about, maybe one day this thing will be reinstated, and we can go back to it. But in the meantime, how do we preserve the work that we've done thus far? We had bought instances, remember, we had licensed for instances for the project duration. And one of the options was to keep them going. But honestly, we had no clue for how long we would have to be in this pause, or even if whether we would go back to the project or not. We didn't know any of this. So that would have been probably an expensive exercise to try and keep the environments alive when we're not actually using them. Other things was, where do we back up? How do we back up? And I spoke a little bit about SAP and their max attention programs and their preferred care programs. We actually spoke to them, and they said, no, not a problem. We can actually go into the system, dedicate somebody. And I think in under less than a week, they were able to recover all the work that we had done, package it nicely together, put it away. We could put it in the drawer somewhere in case we needed to relook at it at a later stage or whatever. So that's pretty much what we did, and where our first attempt at this transformational journey ended. So just to give you, although I talk about this, let me just give you a little bit about how things are looking at Sasol now and what we're trying to achieve actually with this journey. So this is typically what we look like. So I spoke a little bit earlier, and I said, we had recruiting, we had learning and performance, and we had succession planning. But if you look at, on the top part of the diagram, if you look at the whole sort of employee life cycle or this process in particular, there's a lot of manual intervention. These are things that could be the first gray block there manually could be handled by the onboarding module, and that's where we really wanted to go. But this is pretty much where we've always been. If you look at the lower red line that goes across and says POM, that's basically our production organizational management system, on-premise system that we have. So we run an OM system that caters to all the regions. And if you look at the bottom there, you've got USA, South Africa, and Germany, which all run their PA systems and their time management and their payroll system. So the org management feeds into them, gets and feeds back into our SuccessFactors platform. So we use a hybrid model, feeds back into the SuccessFactors platform as well to support those processes that are highlighted above. So it's a bit of a clumsy situation. I know a lot of people do this and it works, but there's a lot of complication that come with having such a setup. And we as Sasol, knew this very much and very aware. So this is what we were actually trying to achieve as Sasol. So we're trying to have, the onboarding there, the compensation management to support. We're trying to have employee central as, that previous red layer that we had to support all our solutions. We want to have an employee central payroll that supports all our regions, absence and time. We will still keep some of the payrolls outsourced for our small countries. We've got payrolls running for about 15 people or 10 people in our small regions. So we're going to keep some of those going. We don't want to be, but for the core regions, the main regions, which is the US, South Africa, and for Germany, we're gonna do with employee payroll, employee central payroll rather. Then we've got our Ingentus, which is our modeling tool. It's going to help us. And then it says here Jam, but SAP has since come out with a new product called Work Zone. So we're going to use that. So we're also wanting to enable our global reporting, our workforce analytics and planning, and a document management system. So where are we today? So for the last, as long as COVID has been around, I guess, I think for the last 18 months, it went dead still on the transformation journey, on the 1HR program. And earlier in the year, we started rehashing the conversations again. Sasol had gone through a change of leadership in the form of our CEO and all that. And we were going through this restructuring of our employees as well. So within all that, we managed to, in fact, one of the guys that's currently the project sponsor on the 1HR program managed to speak to the CEO and, show him the vision that we had for this program. And we got the green light around March to go ahead with our implementation. So right now we back where we were. We picked up where we were. We're going full steam ahead. There has been some changes. So onboarding now is onboarding 2.0 as opposed to the previous one we would have probably implemented. Jam has evolved into work zone, like I said. The decision around the time management solution has also changed a bit. So there's a lot that's been happening, but that's pretty much where we are at the moment. So we're going full steam ahead. I'm very glad that I'm able to be back on the program. We are at the stage where we are busy with the commercial processes around, an implementation partner and all those things. Can't really get into that too much, but that's pretty much where we are. And that's our journey basically as Sasol. And literally a little bit about the impact that COVID had on us. It was obviously very deflating, disheartening. I imagine we lost a lot of buy-in from people. So our change management effort, once the commercial process has been done, is really going to have to be doubled, because we have to win back all those people that, fortunately for us, Sasol is an amazing company and the people there are too. So we shouldn't have that much trouble, but we don't want to take advantage of the fact that we just had this major pause and everybody was just in limbo. And now we just continued. We just want to pick up where we left off. So we really do recognize the effort needed now into our change management and other processes that will enable us to achieve this. And thank you. That's a little bit about what I had to say about our implementation journey, where we are so far, and the impact that COVID had on our journey. And I'm happy to take any questions or any comments that you may have.
Thanks so much, Kagiso. That was, wow, if there was an icon that I could pop there, like, when they do like and they do support and celebrate, I would like to support and celebrate you, because I think from specifically from my perspective, I can imagine if this project meant so much to you, that it's a huge project. There must have been many people who stepped up to the plate and in this process had to stand down again. How did you guys build up that resilience and that momentum again?
I think the first thing is that, we realize that COVID has had an impact on everybody, and it really is no one's fault. So you can't wallow in the misery and blame yourself and take that sort of perspective. I personally I'm generally an optimistic person. So I just told myself, this is not your fault. Time will come around, and if it's something that is meant to be in your path, it will come. And I think that's the general sort of attitude that we took on as a project team. We still kept in touch as the project team. We still interacted, and every time there was a new product that SAP would introduce, we still went and did the demos and listened to them. So we kept ourselves in the project mode for as long as we could, just so we don't become despondent and so I think that's what kept us going in a sense.
Such an important learning, not to step away when things go wrong, actually almost lean in.
Yeah.
You spoke about choosing the correct implementation partner. Would you be prepared to speak to us a bit around what are some of the factors? And I don't want to pick on anyone in particular, but what are some of the things that one thinks about when choosing that partner?
Awesome question. That is the one thing that I wanted us to highlight, if anything, out of this whole conversation. And I think, just do your due diligence. I really, it's what it comes down to. The SAP or the Success Factors community is very small. We all know each other. So speak to everybody that that has done. We at Sasol, our neighbors are Discovery, and they're doing amazing work in this space. So we went over and we spoke to them. Speak to everyone. Come to UPSUP conferences. Speak to SAP themselves and say, listen, SAP, we are about to embark on this journey. And, they also have a role to play, although they're not going to come around and say, go for this particular partner, because that would be obviously unfair practice and whatnot. But they can guide you and lead you to the right people to talk to. So do your due diligence. if somebody has done implementations before, then talk to the people they've implemented it. Understand people, like I said, are willing to give that information. So I think due diligence is probably the most important thing you can do.
Wonderful. So I've got a question here from Sean van der Merwe. He writes, COVID was the showstopper. Why not the remote route as we are doing now?
Why not, as in like do this remotely?
Yes.
Thank you, Sean, for the question. So, Sean, for us, it wasn't just a matter of whether we could carry on or not working from home. It was more a financial decision. Remember, we in that very short space of time, we lost our two CEOs at the time. I mentioned that the Lake Charles project, the plant in Lake Charles, Louisiana, almost doubled in terms of cost and duration. So our share really took a massive beating. I'm talking about around 350 rands or so per share to about 25 rands in a very short space of time. So it really was a financial decision rather than not being able to. Right now we're working remotely as we've picked up the program again. So, and I'm also happy to report that our share has recovered very, very well. We're looking very good, but it was more of a financial decision. We simply couldn't afford to go on as opposed to, not being able to work together. Yeah.
Wonderful. Then I have another question for you. How do you were talking about change management earlier. How are the individuals at Sasol, sorry, now I've gone SAP crazy. How are the individuals at Sasol taking to this project and the impact it will have? Did you find that even with them, there was a bit of a knock-on effect of, we were getting ready and now we're not? And how have they weathered the storm?
Absolutely right. And remember in the beginning, I mentioned that we sort of got carried away and we didn't initially take everybody with us on the journey. So we had quite a lot of work as well from the beginning, but absolutely had an impact on everybody. Just as we were getting excited, all the business product owners and everybody else was saying, this actually sounds like what I've been looking for so many years. And we've just had to do a lot of change management in the sense that we had to explain to people why we're pausing, what this means. It's not the end of the world. We will continue doing this again, but the impact was definitely felt, and that's why I said we do actually realize now the amount of work that's lying ahead in terms of change management, because we need to re-win all those people back. I think everybody has, they want this to succeed and they know that it's going to be good for them. But I do think we've got our work quite cut out for us in terms of winning everybody back and ensuring that we become a success again.
Perfect. So I've got another question here from Amanda, and she says, how will Sasol handle the future, i.e. remote work and getting back to the office with the COVID lockdowns, and what impact will this have on your project going forward?
A very, very interesting question, Amanda. So, as Sasol, as soon as we heard that, the lockdown is being into effect, we were asked to go work from home. So we've been working home probably the longest of most companies. And there is the odd, one or two occasions that we do go to the office individually, but it's a ghost town. Nobody actually comes there. We recently have been told that we actually should come, and in fact, this was just before this lockdown, come and clear our desks. And there are considerations being made for most of the staff to actually remain working from home even after lockdown, because we found that it's actually quite effective. I personally work harder from home than I have anyway in the office. And then in terms of the program, I think because it was a global program, we've always relied on sort of your Teams and your Skypes and all that remote connections to be able to work. So I think it's just an extension of that. So I can't say that there's been a massive impact. I guess the thing is, sometimes when you're sitting with an implementation partner in the room and you can actually, ask them the tough questions, you can sort of read where we are and read the relationship. So maybe that's the one thing I lose. And on a personal level, I'm a people's person. I love people. I love interactions with people. So I guess that's what I'll be missing. But the show must go on. I mean, a lot of companies are doing amazing work. A lot of these young startups now are coming with amazing tools to enable us to be able to work. I mean, look at us as Afsug having this event online. I mean, this is just testimony to the fact that we can do anything that we want if we put our minds to it. So I don't anticipate there'll be a lot of impact. I think by now we've learned to navigate this whole remote working situation.
And Kagiso, do you find that you speak a lot about networking with other people in the user groups, or in the user group? Do you find that a lot of companies had a transition or a transformation going on and were caught in the same situation as you, where COVID literally stopped it in its tracks? And what do you think? What do you think they've what have you learned from them? What have they done to keep going?
Yeah, I think everybody has been impacted. It wasn't just us. What I've found is that there's been much more sort of collaboration from company to company. I currently have a session with a financial company somewhere in Joburg now, where we literally share our journeys, and that sort of interaction has come alive. So I think the blessing in COVID was that we are forced to want to work together, be more aligned, not just rely on maybe a conference once every 6 months or however long these things take. So I think that it's brought us closer together. We collaborate more, we learn more from each other. And I imagine they pretty much did what we had to do. You just have to be strong and be resilient. I mean, this pandemic really is affecting all of us. But if we let it take control of our lives, then we're in much trouble than what we should really be. So we just need to be resilient and just keep going.
Wonderful. So we've got another question from Batu Zulu. You mentioned you have a hybrid deployment. Can you explain what informed this decision and if there are any challenges experienced?
Mabatu, thank you so much for that question. SAP at the time only had an on-premise solution, and we went with that. So we run our time management there, our payroll, yes, the full suite basically, OM and the full suite of SAP HR on-premise. But when we at Sasol, we strive to try and be relevant and keep up with the times. And then SAP at some point actually did announce that they're going to do away with the on-premise solutions. So we thought, okay, so it's time for us to evolve. Let's implement success factors. Let's keep up with the times. And around that time, everybody was talking about the cloud, and we didn't want to be left behind. So we started that journey. We implemented. We didn't want to go the full suite at the time, Mabatu, because we just didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. So we thought, okay, let's go with the talent modules. And then once that's stable, we can keep on adding more modules as and when time goes. So that's why we found ourselves with, our on-premise solution. And then on top of that, we've put the SuccessFactors solution. The recruiting was an easy one to implement, the performance and management. So we went with the talent, the learnings, the ones that were manageable to do. I think that's what pretty much drove the decision. The fact that we would have had to evolve at some point. We all have to eventually be on SuccessFactors or on a cloud solution, as opposed to just the on-premise solution. In terms of the challenges, the one challenge that remains is integration. I mean, with such systems, you need to integrate. What makes our complex even more complicated is the fact that other than just integrating from on-premise to the cloud, to SuccessFactors, which is manageable, we now also have clock-in systems because we work in the mine. So we have people clocking in and calculating their overtimes and feeding that into our on-premise solution, and some of that into the talented work or the SuccessFactors solution. That for me would be one of the things you would probably need to be aware of, is integration between all these environments has been the biggest challenge. And then I guess also the fact that we, like I said before, we have disparate systems. So we have our own HR solution in South Africa, North America has their own, Eurasia, Germany has their own. So that if you're striving to be a global organization, those are some of the biggest challenges I would say we've had to work with.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Kagiso, for that answer. So I wanted to ask you a question. You spoke about inclusion and collaboration that this brought about. And I was wondering, how did you see that specifically within Sasol? You've spoken to us about how it spread outside to user groups and speaking with clients for referrals and things like that. How did it change things within Sasol, and did it even?
So, Innocent, I'll tell you about that. We, we went. Obviously, this was commissioned by, the upper echelons in our organization. So even from my department, I wasn't necessarily the one talking to everyone, but my CIO and those people were having those kind of conversations. They went to business, or the collaboration between this was a business project at the end of the day, but at that collaboration, they spoke at those levels, and they had all these amazing sessions, and we were invited and we were all on board. But when you actually do the work, it's the super users that sit on the ground and do the work that actually know what the system is. Now, if you want to run sessions where you're trying to gather their requirements or understand what they're doing, but they don't even know what the project is about, that was exactly what was happening with us. So there was a lot of resistance from that point of view. So we quickly realized that we need to be inclusive in that manner. This is not some you are on top of the world type of program and you just need to speak to those people. We had to involve everyone. This is where the concept then of product ownership, and it's one of the concepts of in the agile methodology, product ownership and product managers sort of things came about. So we had to identify people on the ground that we could talk to, and they actually understood the system. And I think that's where initially we lost a lot of people. But once we started including them, the change was like almost overnight. We could immediately see the benefits. Oh, wow, we would have never known that little process trick had we not spoken to these people. So it became much more easier. Having said that, I also mentioned that it's very important that you don't get stuck at that level, because you'll always find that different people want different things out of the system. We also need to have somebody who's going to say, this is where we're landing, this is the decision from this department. So it's a nice balance. It's a very difficult balance to have, but definitely include everyone. Everybody has an opinion, so include them, hear them out, but have a decision maker as well at the end of the day. And that made a world of difference to us as compared to when we began.
Wonderful. So important for people to feel heard. Speaking of which, I have another question for you, and this is from Rowena Naidu. She says, have you chosen to align all your processes around the success factors set up with regards to performance and talent? And what resistance did you meet around change management?
Thank you. I missed the name. Was it Luana? Rowena. Sorry. Thank you for the question, Rowena. I think, one of the things that I certainly learned a very long time is that systems should always complement our processes and not the other way around. So while success factors prescribe some really best practice processes out there, it's important that we went and sat down and landed on what we wanted our talent management processes to be, or our performance management processes to be. So we sat with HR, we understood those, we got sign off on those, and then we implemented to complement that. So we went with what we wanted to go with, if I'm honest with you. We just had the system enable us in doing that. And that's the short answer to that question.
Wonderful. If you could do this all over again, what would you have changed at the very start of the project had you known what you know now? And no, you can't cancel the project.
I wouldn't. I think I don't want to use the word arrogant, but I wouldn't have thought that we could do this alone. Okay. So we would definitely would have been more inclusive. Would have made sure we don't run out of money because we had great momentum going in. But I think I think I think most importantly, we would have done the diligence that we're doing now in picking an implementation partner, because our journey, we had a lot of things that so the diligence that we're doing now I would have done then. So I would have definitely done more diligence in terms of our partner, definitely been more inclusive, and definitely the last one probably worked harder or before to truly become a global organization in terms of our processes, in terms of our interactions and how we work. I think that's important.
I really love what you're saying there. It almost feels like that's what Reuven was saying as well. Is it doesn't help what the system is. If the process isn't clear, if the process isn't well defined, then you in any way going to run into problems.
100%, exactly what I said. Systems are meant to enable your processes, not the other way around. Process first, bed that down. Be clear in what you're trying to achieve in your business processes, and then configure the system to complement that, not the other way around. So absolutely.
So Kagiso, I'm a bit of an optimist. How was COVID an advantage to this process? What's better because of your process because of COVID?
Oh wow. I think we alluded to this in terms of remote work. It definitely helped us be more. So, when you're not seeing each other in the office every day, you don't take advantage of the fact that I'll handle this tomorrow because I'm going to see this person anyway. So you're forced to sort of handle it now because, you don't know when you're going to be able to get this person's attention again. So while you have them here, talk to them on. So I think it's made us more, what's the word to use? I don't know what the word is, but we see the opportunity. More intentional in what we're trying to achieve. Like, that's absolutely correct. Yeah. So I think that was a plus. Two, you also realize that things can be taken away from you just like that. COVID has taught us that, even on a personal level. So always give your best. So don't leave anything for tomorrow. Always give your best. Do whatever you do it with pride and give it everything that you've got. So I think that's pretty much probably the lessons that I've personally learned from COVID. Yeah.
And do you think that you spoke about, even when the process was stopped? Oh, hold on. Before I ask you my question, we've got a new question here from Lerato and Koko. How did you achieve having a central point of decision making in a global company and for business to follow that? Usually every country or region always wants to make their own decisions.
Yeah, and Lerato should know. Lerato, just as I joined Sasol, she spent about a month or two and then left us. So hi, Lerato. So a very important question, and she's absolutely right. So we embarked, even before this program, we realized that we had to change the ways that we worked because that was a constant problem. So we embarked on what we called product portfolios. And basically what that means is in alignment with agile. So everybody was talking about we need to be agile in the way that we work. We need to embrace this agile methodology. And some of the concepts from there say that, we need to, I spoke a little bit about the concepts of product ownership from a business point of view. So we now have clearly identified product owners. So for example, if I take learning as a product, we have somebody who's responsible for learning, and that person, the buck stops with that person. So they can get input for the people reporting to them. But if we have clashing requirements from these different product owners, there's somebody at the top that makes the decision and says, okay, listen, this is what we're prioritizing now. This is what we're going to go after. We had to really fight on that one, Lerato, and we still haven't gotten it right, but that's pretty much how we're trying to solve that issue. We organized ourselves. We've got a whole new operating model now. We've organized ourselves into different products, and within the products, we have a product owner from a business point of view. We've got a portfolio manager from an IT point of view, and then we've got a I'm product manager, which is me from an IM point of view as well. So we are in constant collaboration and we have your sprints and your stand-ups, and we do our prioritizations in there. So we've managed to curb that constant competition within business that says, no, but I want this, I want that. That doesn't work anyway. Product ownership is probably the best way to go. And they need to be decision makers. You need to empower the right people, even if it means you go a bit higher up in seniority to make sure that they make the decisions. So that's what we've done. Yeah.
Okay, so very definite and again, very intentional approach to that. So Kagiso, I wanted to ask you, In preparing and implementing these kinds of solutions, the focus, I remember the one slide made me feel so at home because I saw everything from recruiting, onboarding, all the way through the life cycle of the employee. How did Sasol position this change to employees and make them understand that it's an advantage to them? Because so often it's a cold subject. It's a piece of software. What's in it for me as an employee?
100%. And I think that's exactly the first question you should ask yourself as a company before doing any sort of implementation. I mean, how is this to the benefit of the people? At the end of the day, that's why I'm here. I service the employees of Sasol, right? So for us, it was quite an easy one to get over, because I explained that we have quite a lot of systems. So where you go and do your learning is not where you would go and book your leave, or where you would go view your payslip. So you have to log into multiple systems, or there's a form there that you need to fill in. And what this journey, sort of the one benefit that it gave us is that feel of collaboration. I've got my one screen here and I can do anything that I want to do here. And I don't know if you've been looking at, or the audience has been looking at WorkZone, but little tools like those, SAP, I just plugged your product here. So, they look at solutions like those, and they really, really create a collaborative area where you can do anything and everything. So it was an easy sell in that regard, that you won't have to access this one and that one. You just have to do this. It will look so much better. The user interface, people, I mean, these days, we talk about user interface and user design, user experience design. Those things are very important, and these big companies are really doing a lot of work, and SAP as well is doing a lot of work in ensuring that you don't frustrate the user with how and what they can do on the system. So we based it around that. We based it around the fact that it would be easier for users to use. You will have one central point to do everything. It would be suited and customized to your needs. So it was around that they said, okay, we can definitely get on board with this. So yeah, and just the ease of doing things. And also another big one is enabling people to truly do self-service. I think the one major benefit that comes with SuccessFactors is that you do your own thing. You are more in control of your own processes, as opposed to logging calls for every little thing. And empowering people, that gives people a sense of purpose as well. And obviously, of course, there's other benefits, such as the fact that there are such less calls with the call center now, because people are empowered to do their own things and manage their own life cycles in the organization. So giving a bit of power back to the people to manage their own life cycle, I think that was probably a big selling point for us.
I understand that entirely. Perfect. So we've got another question here for you. So from Sean van der Merwe. It's not even a difficult name. What would you say was the most important part of the change management process that in hindsight has shown success?
Sean, thank you for that. Just actually doing change management. I think a lot of the times on these programs, we pay lip service to change management. So we'll have a whole change team there, and they'll come up with a poster once every 2 weeks, or some comms once every 2 weeks. But I find that it's going to the ground. I mean, we have a lot of people in the plants that a lot of times, if they're not in the Sandton office, they might feel left out, because I mean, we've got the best coffee there. Everything happens around Sandton. Nobody cares about the guy in Secunda. So actually taking the project team and going to Secunda and setting up these expos and workshops, and hosting these events where people can actually ask questions and give input, so actually getting dirty and going to the ground and doing the change management, as opposed to the high level change management where you're just sending a little screen from the project inbox once a month. So Sean, that would be my quick answer. Do the dirty work. Do the actual change.
I love what you're saying. Again, it just sounds like you're saying, coming down to the fact that people want to be heard.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I see we only have 5 minutes, but I've got one last question for you from Lerato Nkoku. She says, having an owner and accountability don't always work hand in hand, and prove to be the case. Did you ever have to deal with that?
Absolutely correct, Lerato. You're right. So when coming up with this product ownership sort of concept, and when implementing that, you also need to make sure that you choose the right people, and those people should be accountable. So it doesn't really help that you choose somebody that you call them product owner, but they don't actually make the final decisions, or they're not accountable for the decisions that they've made should anything go wrong. So it's very important on who you empower with this title, that they actually take accountability for what they're saying. And a lot of the times we've also, I mean, we haven't gotten it right. So we've also been in situations where the person that you do empower will put somebody as their proxy. And that proxy, yes, they might fulfill the role, but exactly what you say, when it comes to accountability, they simply are not, don't take that accountability as much as they should. So there's a lot of permutations that you probably need to, and nuances that you need to manage as you go along. But I think if you can bed down that, and you can put the right people there, you've got half your work cut out. In practice, there are still daily struggles, but eventually we'll get it right. It's continuous improvement.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Kagiso, for really almost an inspirational talk there about how to deal with things when life gets tough. We really appreciate your contribution, and there was so much that we learned. So thank you so much. And from all of those questions, I believe Sean van der Merwe's question was about the change management. So I'm rooting for him. It's a people thing. About the change management process was our winner for this particular presentation. So thank you to Sean for the question, and thank you for Kagiso for all that you have shared with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you to everybody that's listening in for taking their time to do exactly that. Thank you. Reach out to me anytime if you want to talk further. Thank you so much.